A couple of quick questions. First of all, it's interesting that when you mention WIP and the Carlsbad area and how that's created jobs and economic, if you'll remember back to the beginning of WIP, Congress had to force WIP on Carlsbad. It was not readily accepted by the people of New Mexico. We were sued several times and everything else. So sometimes these things have to get done one way or another, which has been the issue with Yucca Mountain, obviously. Has the department embraced the Blue Ribbon Commission's recommendations? And if so, will it require legislation to implement some of those provisions? And if so, will you present that to Congress, or will it be done by administrative fiat, such as closing Yucca Mountain?
No, I think it's very clear that Congress will have to play a very key role in if it wants to amend the Nuclear Waste Act, and that was very clearly stated in the Blue Ribbon Commission.
It would take an amendment of the Nuclear Waste Policy.
It depends on what parts you're talking about. For example, one of the recommendations was that there are fees collected from the power generators, and those fees are a considerable amount of money. It's $750 million a year. And they recommended that some fraction of those fees start to go to this if a semi-private organization is set up, because it takes it away from yearly appropriations. It puts it on a more professional basis, and it can start with a small fraction, but to let that begin, because those monies were clearly collected for that reason.
And it's recommended that occur promptly.
But that would require an act of Congress.
Have you proposed it?
We would love to work with Congress and deciding what Congress would be willing to accept on those things. That's one example. Another example is the Blue Ribbon Commission points out that you would want both the permanent storage sites and you would want interim sites.
Well, don't let this turn into a Simpson Bowles, where we go out and we make all these recommendations and then nobody pushes it forward. If you're going to push it forward, then push it forward.
Right.
And come and work with Congress to get it done. Secondly, along the lines of what Mr. Rogers was talking about, 50% of our electricity is produced by coal, 20% by nuclear power. When I look at your budget, I look at huge increases in the renewable energy, which is the very small part of the electrical portfolio, and cuts in the other area that's producing most of the electricity. And I'm frankly disappointed that we're seeing reductions in small modular reactors. This was the new ground we were going to go on to and head down that road, but we're seeing reductions in that arena and other things. So it seems to me like there's an agenda of trying to push the green technology, when in fact nuclear energy, I think, is green technology. It doesn't put hydrocarbons in the air. And if you're really gonna address global climate change and hydrocarbons, you had better adopt nuclear energy, and it doesn't seem like we're doing that in this budget. This is the first time I've seen a retrenchment in this administration in advancing nuclear energy. The talk is all there, but the budget doesn't reflect it.
Well, I think you know very well that my support of nuclear energy and my support of clean coal, and so we're trying to push what we can where we can do this. I think in this century, those things will play an important part of our energy mix.
Yes, they will play an important part. One other question. You recently testified that you intend to separate civilian and defense nuclear fuel issues. Do you believe that you have the legal authority to do that under the Nuclear Waste Policy Act, to overturn a previous presidential determination of how to handle these materials together? Frankly, I don't want to see defense nuclear waste be an orphan left at places that it currently is.
No, I agree. I mean,
how do you plan to handle them differently?
Well, they are different, number one, and we have a responsibility for both of those. And the department, or the U.S. government, let me say, writ large, has a responsibility to handle both of those waste streams. One is they're different in the respect that if you look at, if nuclear power is going to be part of our energy mix in this century, that requires considerably more attention, but it's not to say that the other's not important.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.